Welcome to How Not to Make a Movie with X Strike Studios.
Woo!
We are here representing X Strike Studios, the three of us. So I'm, I don't know, how many of you are familiar with X Strike Studios?
Just quick show of hands.
50. All right.
If we can sum it up real quick, we have been content creators since before that was a term, since we have been creating, we've been content creators for 20 years.
Producing
content. Video game themed content, the video, funny videos and podcasts and things for 20 years, predating YouTube, predating podcasts.
We weren't content creators, we were filmmakers.
Yes.
We should have become content creators, and then we'd be huge, but instead we made movies and we're not. Once upon a time, our history with MAGFest stretches back to MAGFest 2. We've been going to MAGFest almost as long as MAGFest has been a thing. We're 1 year shy because I found out about MAGFest like a week or two before it was happening, and I was like, well, I can't put this trip together down to Virginia in that amount of time. We're all originally Western New Yorkers. I still am. So
go Bills.
Yep.
Clumsy.
Throw in that. I'm Tim MAGFest. I wrote and directed River City Rumble, a movie based on River City Ransom for the NES, and Resident Horror, which was our last full feature-length movie, and had a major hand in every movie in between.
I'm David Ottavino, and at the time I was an actor in several of our features, and I composed some music for some of our productions. I'm now a professional working actor with real experience on actual film sets. So in terms of knowing what we used to do that was wrong and the way you're supposed to do it, we're going to juxtapose that a little bit.
And I'm Brett Vanderbrook. I went to school with some of these guys and was an actor in most of the X Strike films, either in cameo roles or with Silent Horror, I had a larger part. And then I went to New York and started PBC Productions with a few of my friends, and we had we were content creators at the beginning.
You did it.
At that point it was called content creation.
And your stuff looked really good.
In 2007 it did. It doesn't. Yeah. I don't know that it holds up now, but we did a series called The New Adventures of Captain S, and we did some other game related stuff for the web.
Cool.
And that's us.
Yeah, so that's us. But we're here to kind of just share some of our experience in making of the movies, because boy, we were going to have new content, but then a pandemic happened. And that really kind of screwed everything up. But hey, I have tons of models of Animal Crossing figures in my basement waiting to be posed painstakingly and animated.
You people just wait. Anyway,
Dave, you need to come over next month. We got to do something.
All right.
With models in my basement. Anyways, but I mean, even just outside of X Strike, I've worked on other movies. You guys are actors, so you've worked on plenty of stuff. But to go back,
worked on some stuff.
One of the big differences, and if anybody has a question, just throw your hand up, please. As we go along, one of the big differences is something that Danimal Cannon from Arm Cannon, Metroid Metal, and himself points out to me is that because he does a lot of video production, he produces his own music videos. He learned Unreal Engine last year to produce his videos.
Oh yeah, those are looking sick.
He's done some great work, but he's just you guys were. The things we did were crazy, and I don't think about it because we just did it, but we're shooting feature-length movies on what was basically considered a prosumer camera, a Sony PD-150 to mini DV tape. They didn't, have it. What you were recording to tape at the time. You weren't recording to digital media. The idea of there were cameras out there where you could plug in a hard drive via USB to record straight to that, but that was very early, and you were carrying
and they were
a 3.5-inch
expensive
disc hard drive with you if you wanted to go that route. So that was not happening. We were shooting onto a mini DV cam, and then we're capturing it onto something resembling I wasn't really a top of the line PC at that time, but we got a Power Mac G5.
Yeah,
what we were editing. Editing with Final Cut Pro, and then putting together and exporting a feature-length film on that kind of hardware was not something that people who were sane were doing at the time. On hardware that you could have at your home. I mean, like this is going to would do a better job of shooting and editing River City Rumble than anything we had in our hands back in the day.
You kids today have it so easy.
You have it so easy.
I mean, it really is insane for people who started working, on film 20 years ago to see just the enormous sea change that next 10 years would bring to the accessibility of people being able to make their own movies. And then like the following 10 years, it just exponentially became so much easier, affordable, and more accessible. And that is a tremendous, wonderful thing. I'm so happy for everyone that's getting started making movies now, because you can really just take whatever is in your pocket and go with a creative vision and make it happen. There's no boundaries.
I am and I am not, though, because because
Brett
also,
fucking hates you.
No. What I'm gonna say is that what we were doing 20 years ago was insane and nobody was doing it, but also nobody was doing it now. I suppose, for the love of the craft, fine, but if you want to do it and have any success now, it's very tricky because it is such a saturated market. And what you said is that anybody can pick up their phone and create and edit something that looks pretty good if you have just a modicum of talent at that sort of thing. It's really hard to get your thing out there and get it noticed now.
Yeah.
Which should discourage. That's a tough thing, and maybe just I don't know if there's. One of the things that I would want you to go home with out of this panel is don't be discouraged by the fact that don't be worried about people not watching your stuff. That never stopped us. Because you just have to do it because you want to get it out there. But while the camera on your mic on your phone is very good, I feel like the microphone on your camera is not very good.
It's not sufficient. No.
Yeah. Now, Dave, you love the audio, so you'd probably maybe have a thing or two to say about.
All right. So I've become an audio guy now, and the first time that I recall, so we didn't start using a shotgun mic on a boom pole until Tim. We were talking about this the other day. Do you recall what our first film was?
It was somewhere around here, because I remember having it for Side Quest, which we were trying to film at the exact same time as Project Snake. To go back to how not to make a movie, don't make two at the same time when you barely have the resources to make one. But yeah, it was somewhere around there. So we shot 4 movies and a half without a boom microphone.
But once we got one and had one on set, now that felt like a big step up. But here's the issue: is that most people assume when you get a shotgun mic that instantly it's like a telephoto lens. That let's say this little straw is a shotgun mic, and I'm going to aim it at Brett, and I can have it very, very far away. Only the most expensive shotgun mics actually have this much reach. You can't just get an $80 VidPro shotgun mic and expect that it's going to reach that far. It really doesn't. It is better than having a mic just mounted to your camera top, because you need to get your microphone as close to your source as possible. The boom as close to your actors just out of the shot. But the equipment that we had, of course, at that time couldn't do the job. So even though we had a shotgun, which was better, a lot of our dialogue still came out sounding more distant than I would have liked. And that's just because you have a shotgun, that doesn't mean you can be 6 feet away from your talent.
Did we ever do ADR for those movies?
Only if something was screwed up. No, we never did ADR, which is recording the audio in post to the movie for a cleaner audio sound. That was really hard to sync up. There were moments where we had to do that, just kind of throughout the movies. I can't think of one specifically to pull up in the archive. Yeah, get them. That was hard to do. I think it would be easier with just the software we have right now, with something like Adobe Audition, but just working in Final Cut. I don't remember. They were still layering in features to Final Cut at the time. I don't remember if we could have. I think we had to record separately. It was just a whole pain in the butt.
Yeah.
It was a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing we weren't doing. I mean, we were recording audio directly into the camera and not into a separate recorder. And again, while small portable recorders that were affordable certainly did exist at that time, I think the earliest Zoom H4 was around at that time, it was prohibitively expensive. But now you can get really great audio capture devices that can capture multiple tracks of audio, so you can have a lapel on your talent as well as a boom mic, so that if one gets screwed up, you've got a backup track, and you can mix between those two sound sources and get the level of fullness and closeness that you want in your audio mixing. And that's obviously, we didn't know. We were learning, but to me, that's the thing that stands out about as a person who works in sound now.
We didn't know, and we couldn't have afforded it anyway.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, just even the camera we got was like $3,500, which seemed like a lot of money at the time. Like, we had to get a bank loan together. We were in our early 20s. We didn't have credit.
Yeah.
We didn't have a credit card to just swipey, and like it wasn't a thing. I mean, it was starting to be a thing where you go to every website and it's like, oh, you can just do this in a few easy payments and we'll give you credit approval, and then like ream you with charges and such. You're playing Risk at the time. But to go back, I should put up River City Rumble, because that was the first one.
Let's go back. Let's take it all the way back to the beginning.
Back to 2003.
All the way back to 2003, the movie that premiered. I could have just been playing that the whole time. The movie that premiered at MAGFest 2.0.
Jesus.
Catch that audio there.
It's fine. I'm sorry. Did it squirt you?
No.
Did my bottle squirt you?
Oh, God.
Yeah, one of the things, I guess, that jumps out at me from a lot of the early movies, I was looking, where's Brett?
Oh!
Where's Brett?
Oh, there he is.
Brett's
there he is.
Yeah.
Oh, there is this getting beat up. Yeah,
there's Dave. Hey.
There's Dave.
Darren's stupid wig.
So, and like, this is like one of those things where it's like, I feel like I say, and it should be completely obvious to anyone making a movie or doing anything creative at this point, but it's like, I wrote out
how close this shot is. You can see my pores.
It was a good camera.
This was my... I think that was a thing that came from working with Chris Seaver, is like he would get these super close-ups. So I would do the same. But I mean, like, you look at this. So this, again, the first movie I shot, and this scene is just a disaster in terms of like where the camera angles are, because I was just going off of like, well, it's a new shot, so I'm going to change where I'm standing with like no thought of like continuity or like having like any kind of, I'm just kind of like, I'm over here, then I'm over here, then I'm over there.
Just breaking the 180 rule all over the place.
Just break, like normally you like, you're shooting, like a film is a two-dimensional product generally, and you want to have a two-dimensional plane on your scenes, but I'm just like, whatever, we just need a different shot.
Now, Tim, let me ask you this. What was the first film in which you actively started drawing up storyboards, or someone started drawing up storyboards before shooting?
I think some storyboards were drawn up for Project Snake, maybe.
Okay. Because there were storyboards for Resident Horror.
We did a lot of storyboards for Resident Horror.
Yeah.
Like Rory. Well, you know what?
And that helped so much. Planning. How about that?
Weiss did draw. I mean, we're kind of jumping all over the place. Weiss did do storyboards. Storyboards being where you just have like a rough sketch of like every shot that you put out in order. So you have an idea, like you're kind of visualizing the scene before you get there and shoot it. Weiss would draw storyboards, but Weiss's drawing could be interpreted by one person sometimes. And that was Weiss, not an artiste by that. But it was something that, we'll get to Resident Horror. But again, not storyboards. But so I wrote the draft for River City Rumble, the first, draft of the movie, like sent it out, and Weiss was like, yep, it's good. And no changes were made.
Zero editing.
Zero second thought to like any of the dialogue or the scenes or the pacing or anything. It's just like, oh, got it. One take, boom. I wrote the perfect movie in one shot. And that was kind of something that continued up until like we hit the wall with side quests, where it's like, okay, someone wrote it, and it's like, oh, good, they wrote it, it's good. All right, it's fine. They wrote it out. Well, this part's slow, but this part's funny, but whatever, it has to be in there. Like, there was no, I don't know. I think there was definitely a sense that I think we were afraid of hurting each other's feelings.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah,
like starting out, like I had been friends with these guys, but it's.
But you're making something and you're putting it in front of your friends and asking, is this good? And part of doing that is, I think when you do, I think what Tim's trying to say here is, it is really important as a creator to get your ideas out of your head, put them in front of someone you trust to be vulnerable with, and ask them to be brutal. Ask them to really, and they can do that. If it's a friend you can trust, they can be brutal with that without, and likewise, if you are that friend, get a sense of how to offer critical feedback in the most constructive way possible, which means like, I want to offer you suggestions for alternatives. I'm not saying what you did is shitty. I'm not saying what you did is bad, but if you wanted to take it in a different direction, here are some alternatives you might consider. That's a good non-confrontational way to offer feedback and things. So having someone that you trust to just get your ideas out and get a little bit of critical feedback in editing is really, really vital. But
be aware too, though, of too many cooks, because I know that we ran into this problem when we tried to make a second season of Captain S, that there were just too many voices in the room. And what happens is that, yes, it's great for one person to put their idea out there and have it filtered through somebody else to have it, to get a second set of eyes on it. But if you've got 6 or 8 set of eyes on it who all have strong opinions, sometimes it can kind of destroy the creative process, because you just like all of a sudden everybody wants their ideas in, and
it's the don't read the comments on your article or YouTube
right
video,
yeah so there has to be a balance between like one person just steamrolling ahead and just all of their ideas make it through versus like everybody somehow gets their ideas in.
Yeah, that's funny, because I remember Chad saying something to me at some point. I don't remember what exactly we were working on, but he was just kind of like, yeah, we could get everyone in here and everyone will have 36 great ideas, and we won't make any progress on actually getting something done because we'll just have a ton of ideas.
But that's back then. Here's another thing that you people have today that we did not have, is that you beautiful, wonderful people have. You are all so much more familiar with the language of consent and boundaries today. And so having a good, healthy working relationship with someone else that you trust, adhere to those. It's going to make you so much, it's going to make everything so much better and make you happier. Sent me one of his early drafts for SideQuest, and I tore the thing to shreds. And I've always felt bad about it, because I really felt like I hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
I tried to be as constructive as possible, but in a way, I almost feel responsible for bringing that movie down, because I was like, look, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. This is not going to work.
No, but
and I wish that I had been more helpful, more constructive, but understanding what people's boundaries are, and understand you have to be clear about what you're asking for in terms of feedback, and when giving feedback, you have to be really clear and supportive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like SideQuest was where like the rubber really met the road, and we had to like confront that, because I don't think much changed from that initial draft, despite your fireworks apparently. And so SideQuest, for those that might not be familiar, was an RPG themed parody movie that we started working on shortly after. So we made River City Rumble, then Ninja Storytime, which was a disaster.
Silent horror.
We made Silent Horror, and then Nth Mile, and then also still Silent Horror a little bit.
Yeah, Silent Horror took a long time.
Silent Horror took a while, yeah. And then it was like Project Snake and SideQuest, and just for whatever reason we were like, well, we'll shoot them on alternating weekends and we'll get it all done. But yeah, again, SideQuest was a thing where it's like, we wrote a script and sent it out, and like everyone was kind of like, okay, all right, and then we just started shooting it, and then we were having problems, and we ended up having to kind of stop production and go back to the drawing board and like rewrite huge swaths of the script like multiple times, and that was the point at which people were coming out and being like, oh yeah, I didn't, kind of being more open to being like, well, yeah, I didn't think that it turned out everyone kind of thought there was a lot of problems, but everyone was afraid to say it. So instead, what we ended up doing was wasting a bunch of time and effort, like trying to make something that like most of us knew wasn't going to work, but no one knew how to like, have that conversation with each other to, get the thing into a better place before we went forward. Like initially, I had the initial idea for SideQuest, but then Weiss had this whole idea that was like, mine was more based on like classic like FF1 like Dungeons and Dragons type RPGs, but Weiss was like taking more off of what was modern at the time of like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy X, like the more like techno-futuristic where Final Fantasy was at the time.
And it was
which I thought was great and much easier to shoot. Even though it was impossible to shoot, it was easier to shoot than like my idea, which was like high fantasy,
Well, that was my biggest critical feedback on his script was, how are you going to shoot this? And his response to me was, for the most, he said, if it's in the script, I have an idea of how to shoot it. But again, without the experience that we had and it was a big effects-laden thing. There were dragons flying in. I'm like, I'm serious. I'm like, how? Really? No. How are you? He's describing camera angles that are impossible and that we did not have the CG budget for in 2006. So, but really,
it was ideas that were kind of just hand waved. It's like, well, Rory thinks he can do this.
Well, yeah, Rory can do it.
They're like, yeah, we'll fix it in post.
Oh God,
something
that was a terrible running joke
to say. Yeah,
with PBC, to the point where we had to like Chad would be like, no, stop saying that because you can't. Don't rely on fixing it in post.
Okay, just say that again, Brett.
Don't rely on fixing it in post.
If I can just go back to sound again real quickly, that's a big reason why it's really hard to hear TV and film dialogue right now, is because even on Hollywood sets, the director's constantly saying, we'll fix it in post, and not giving the sound people enough room and leverage to get good audio capture. This guy knows
that guy gets it. That guy gets it.
And something, and this is something I don't want to linger on too much because it's something I've talked about a lot with like River City Rumble specifically and Nth Mile, and Darren had something to this effect to talk about with Project Snake, is like running your scripts in your movies. Well, I guess the script at the earliest part, like, so at the early stages of development, because, in X-Strike, it turns out we were all white guys.
As it turns out, we didn't know. As it turned out.
Well, what we didn't know is how much of a problem that is. Yeah. But it was just like, scripts need to get in front of like a more diverse range of people, than what we had in front of us. There is some regrettable language in River City Rumble that I apologize that, every given thing. But Darren, something I didn't realize had stuck with him in Project Snake is he took the character of Mei Ling, that's and cast a white woman in the role and made her just kind of like a Japanophile, like anime, otaku sort of thing. And that didn't jump out to him until we were like at a convention and someone of Asian Japanese descent was like standing next to him, was like, oh God, they whitewashed the character, and Darren was like, oh no, I did, like not even thinking about it, because you just think every idea you have is great and like this is like all what I'm thinking about why this works, but you're not thinking about how somebody else might see it if it didn't. So that is important. For not having regrets 20 years down the road.
And if you are committed to putting out something, to putting out a film that is, I don't want to say controversial, just be prepared to own it. Be prepared to, if you're going to say something that you might regret in 20 years, make sure that you're prepared to own it and apologize and learn and grow.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about silent horror.
Oh, God.
Hey, can you see this scene? How about this one? Oh my God.
Yeah. Lights. Don't shoot a movie completely in darkness if you can't afford something better than a deer light.
Yeah, a deer blind, which is so, oh my God. Yeah, that's Brett. There's Brett.
Yeah, that is me.
So, silent horror. Movie, it's a Silent Hill movie. It's a horror movie. It is mainly set at night in the dark. We are shooting the scene. We are in a car right now, just to paint a picture. Yeah, you're driving? Yeah, because you hit Steve with the car. There's Steve. Yeah, but most of the scenes, we're in the car at night. We're out in the woods at night. We're in buildings, ramshackle. We're all at night, and our lighting solution was, a deer blind light, which is like something you're used to like give a literally deer in headlights. It is a fake headlight. You flash it at the deer to freeze it, and then you shoot it.
And also on top of it, it has a battery life of about 5 minutes.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to be holding it on. It would
start to dim as we would shoot, and just
It's okay. We had a solution. We bought another one.
2-point lighting system.
So when the battery ran out on one, we could just start up the other until we went, oh, wait, we didn't plug that one in? I thought you plugged that one in. I thought that one was plugged in before the other one was plugged in. Oh, no.
I actually think even though Ninja Storytime and Side Quests didn't get finished, there were more problems with silent horror than any movie you guys ever made. And maybe it's just because I was so directly involved with that one. So like, I was right there the whole time. But it was like we made every mistake possible making that movie.
But like learning on the fly, you know?
Sure. And here's something else that I'm so jealous of people that are just getting into filmmaking and content creation today, is that the tech that you have available, what I would have given to have affordable battery-powered LED lights 20 years ago. My goodness. And like microphones, it doesn't have to be top of the line. Like, when I was talking about the shotgun example earlier, yes, expensive shotguns are better. You can get by with a cheap shotgun microphone. It's better than not having one if you get it close to your source. Likewise, you can get cheap lighting and just watch a few videos about how to do it. Watch a few videos about how to manipulate those lights. Get a 3-point lighting system set up. You don't have to break the bank, especially with all the options that are available today. But it's so much easier to just learn a thing or two about how to set up lights and position them.
Because YouTube exists.
But
hey, Dave, we figured out, because eventually we also brought a piece of poster board to reflect the deer light off of.
Hey, diffused lighting.
Diffusion.
It's perfect.
The other huge problem was silent horror. So I think it took longer than any movie to make too. We started making it in the fall of 2003, and I don't think we finished shooting until almost 2005. The weather changed a lot.
It was like fall of 2004 when we wrapped it up.
Okay. So, but it was about a year it took us, and you'll notice.
Maybe you're right.
Because I remember, here's why I remember this. I lost a lot of weight from the start of this film to the finish of this film, and it's pretty noticeable in some scenes at the end. But yeah,
you got a very full round face at the beginning.
At the beginning, and less full and round at the end. But you'll notice that like there's no continuity with the weather in this. There are scenes where it is just like bare ground, and then the next scene we're in 2 feet of snow.
It's crazy what happens in Quiet Knoll.
Yeah,
that was
like I'll never forget. There's a scene where we were like on the roof of something at the old drive-in, and it was pouring rain, and then I jump off of the building into snow. So keep it in mind, like if you're going to be filming outside and there is snow, you're going to have to try and finish it while there's still snow on the ground.
No, that was one of the, when you get to, by Resident Horror, we had learned a lot of lessons and fixed a lot of things, but one of them was we showed the movie at MAGFest, and it didn't have an ending. It did not have its proper ending. We put in like this goofy storyboard ending that we designate as the reward for watching the movie at MAGFest. So you get the crap ending, because we had decided basically we don't have enough time to fit in filming this last scene before there is snow on the ground, and we don't want to do what we did in Silent Horror and have snow's here, and then you go, or the whole movie was shot in summer. The whole movie shot in summer, and then you get to the finale, it's in snow because we couldn't finish it till winter. We were just like, you know what, forget it. We'll do this thing, and then we'll finish the movie in the spring. And that was a better thing to do for the movie at the end.
Learning from our mistakes.
But also, filming in the snow also means you're filming in the cold.
Yes.
Which it turns out sucks. And especially when you have,
Yeah, do you see what we're wearing in these scenes? That's all.
No, they can't.
No one can see anything.
Well, I assure you, it's not a lot. And I don't know if you've ever been to Western New York, but it gets real cold in January and February there.
I remember there was one scene in this movie that I think you guys shot in a field next to the 90 or some street or something like that. It's just out in the field, out in the middle of nowhere, and we couldn't use it because it was just, you could just tell how miserable people were just trying to I need to get my line out. Here is the next line. because they're just freezing, like uncomfortably freezing.
And as we were already dealing with, another regrettable. Well, I don't know if it's regrettable, but we had to cast our friends a lot, and unfortunately, my co-star in this film was not an actor, and it was very, very difficult to work with her and get her to the line reads that she gives in the movie were the best takes.
They're amazing.
They're amazing for the wrong reason, though.
Yeah, she was excellent in the movie. Yeah, not a trained actor, and that definitely has its ups and downs. But yeah, shooting in the cold. Like I remember we were shooting in Willard. This abandoned drug treatment facility that we actually had permission to be in.
Yes.
Unlike other places that we might get to later. Yeah, and it was, I don't know what month it was, but it was snow and it was cold, and they're just buildings, they don't have heat, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm wearing 3 layers of socks. Well, good, that saved me from like 5 minutes of cold, I'm just gonna be frozen to the bone for this. Side quest, we were shooting a scene, it was, I don't know if it was full winter yet, but it was cold enough, just that particular morning. So we're out like near this like swamp in the woods, and trying to get through this scene, like one shot really, and the actress for that, who is a very small girl, just like practically became frozen solid. Like the pond was freezing behind us, and like we had to stop and like get her to the car to warm her up because she was starting to cry because she was so cold, but she was afraid to say something. Again, by Resident Horror, we had a super cold scene, and Rich brought a space blanket and like lots of little chemical hand warmers, and it was still cold and uncomfortable, but we had things to work.
You were prepared.
Warm. Yeah, and we had figured some things out by then. Anything else about silent horror, Brett?
I think that was, we already touched on it, but we talked about storyboards, and I think that was storyboards and production schedules were one of the downfalls of silent horror, because I had no, besides being the lead role in the movie, I was not really directly involved with making it. Like, I mean, Rory would have taken my suggestions and things, but like really it was his movie to make. But I remember this was a time when like AIM was still like the way that people got in touch with each other, because we didn't have cell phones. And I remembered like, January 2004, and it started to snow, and I went, Rory, snow, let's go film, and I have to kind of get his ass in gear, even though like it was not my movie to make. But I remember a lot of times we would just go out and like, we had the script, but we didn't have, Rory just had it in his head how he was going to shoot it. So we would get out there, and like, sometimes we wouldn't get through what we needed to get through. We'd take us 8 hours and we would shoot 30 seconds of film. And I think in that case, if he had drawn out even just crude what do you call it, storyboards, and like had some kind of a production, said, okay, this is what I want to get through tonight, rather than just like, well, let's go out and shoot and see what happens.
Yeah, I get, so with the benefit of experience, it is a lot easier to look back in hindsight and be like, well, having shot a lot more stuff now I have a much better intuitive sense of how long is each shot going to take? How much time do I need to schedule in between different setups? What can I reasonably schedule in a day? How long is pushing my actors and crew too long? And, lest we run them ragged and start to get a poor performance out of everyone. So while, yes, that all is so much easier with experience, because you start to get a second sense for how long that stuff takes, it's really important to at least attempt it from the get-go. Just really try and make a schedule and stick to it.
I want to say, to my credit, I actually did a good job with that with River City Rumble. Like I could go, like my filmmaking experience at that point, like with low budget pictures, had been like, we would shoot the movie in a day, but that was very much a situation where it was like,
again, the first take would just have to be acceptable.
That was it. Oh, you said the line, good, next shot. But like, I actually built out River City Rumble over a course of like 4 weekends, and we had to make some delays because holidays and stuff came up. Speaking of shooting in the cold, boy, she was sick the next day. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you're out in this open field with wind and your shirt is open to the world. Get him. It has to be like the game. But yeah, Silent Horror and Project Snake, it came a little dicier with the scheduling thing. But yeah, Project Snake. So Darren had a couple things. Darren couldn't be here. Darren did not make it to MAGFest, but he gave me like a lot of things to talk about as far as Project Snake, and we don't have time to talk about all of them. But yeah, how not to make it. I do have to. So like, we talked about script suggestions, and he mentioned all script suggestions aren't good suggestions.
Yeah, so this was a too many cook situation.
Someone told me that the ninja should have a giant dildo strapped to his head and chase Snake around yelling, "Yes, Snake, hurt me more. That's it. Hurt me. Oh yeah, like that." Something.
What are you talking about? That's a great suggestion.
Something in Darren's usually trusting brain told him not to do that. And everyone had a lot of suggestions for Project Snake, but this was a movie where we ended up cutting things. Like there was initially a scene in there where, like, Snake, crawls around and picks up mines off the ground. And I was just like, Darren, we don't need to do this. I know it's in the game, but like, what are we, like, he doesn't need to do that in this movie, which is already like an hour and 40 minutes, hour and a half long. We can just skip that part. And he was like, yeah, okay. Much like, and so he talks a bit about, and this is kind of a do this and don't do this thing, is trusting with his big ideas. We talked about side quest being like reaching too far to the stars. But Darren came in and like, he has a tank in this movie. He had a helicopter scene in this movie, and he had a mech in this movie. And on one hand, we ended up cutting the helicopter scene. I believe there was supposed to be stop motion. We did film scenes of me in the helicopter cockpit. Like there were supposed to be jokes about me like going through a drive-through as I'm in the Hind D, like fighting Snake. But again, that just ended up being a thing. Like you don't need this in the movie. I guess for some reason the tank didn't meet his expectations. Oh, you're fighting that. Oh, there's the ninja. Yeah, hurt me more, like that. Yeah, yeah. So this tank. That tank did not meet his expectations. I don't know how he thought it was going to be better.
But George, he just did a hell of a job with that.
I guess, but also then we're putting George in like we're making him a native character, and he's not.
Oh, that's true. Again, yeah, I didn't think about that.
I didn't think about that till just that moment. But yeah, again, problems, not thinking about things, but things that did work. Well, this scene for one.
This was a scene where we actually, I will say, we went into it and we did not have any. Darren was like, okay, this is going to be improv, and we improv'd this, and this was a situation where I think it actually worked out. Like it was improv by design, and it ended up being so much fun and so funny. There are so many outtakes from this scene.
and I will say that A-Rival who did the music for this movie, this is like one of my, it's scored like to the scene. It is one of the best tracks on there, and that's like, okay, you beat up these guys, but like the whole gimmick with Rich is that like this is finally a genome soldier that's as tall as Snake, and also he has 3 guns that he doesn't use. Oh God. Sorry, I have to watch this gag. Some stuff worked out pretty well. I believe I'm in the flare now. Yeah, there it is. Oh. Yeah, but he was like, okay, yeah, we need to have a mech. Darren, how are we going to do this? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to buy a tank toy, and we're going to buy a Gundam, and we're going to put them together. Eventually you'll see the thing. And I still can't believe that this actually worked. Which is why you shouldn't necessarily write off those big ideas, because it turns out, like, even with all the aforementioned lack of resources we did have the resources to do a stop motion mech. Even though it did involve me, like our lighting wasn't good enough to just do like a clean green screen matte, which would probably be easier with like software you can get now. They're just way better at that, and they have more controls for it. So I had to go in and like fix pixel by pixel,
yeah. Oh, God.
Like fill in the green. I mean, hey, I wasn't in Fredonia at the time, so I needed something to do to create this movie. Would I please shut up? Oh, also, how not to make a movie. Maybe don't like bleach your hair for a year when you are, already genetically condemned to losing all of your hair. Because the last time I bleached it and I was in the bathroom, I was like, oh no,
my scalp hurts.
No, it's like I could just see where it was going. I'm just like, oh, well, this is not long for this world. Anyways, at least I looked good for that, for being liquid.
You're a beautiful man.
Yeah. Stop taking. Yeah, get the
Those lips.
Yeah, I know. That was a very Phil the Demon take there. Oh my God. How many lines, Darren? The monologue. I'm just in a car here, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can see those jagged, like pixelated edges on the legs. But it's effective. Yeah, it worked. It was cool. I like it. By the way, does anybody have any questions at this point? We'll probably do more questions at the end, just as I'm like.
I love the tank scene.
Oh yeah! Speaking of Project Snake, and just shooting these movies in general. So most people, when they're filming a movie professionally, they get these things called permits, which is similar to getting permission to shoot things. So we never did that. We were just going around stealing shots like wherever we could, which, it's something, it's like, okay, we're out on a college campus, like who cares? Well, the board campus police do, because I remember the first day we were shooting River City Rumble, it was like, just like you could see the car following us like around campus, like they're just parked across the field over there just watching us because we got nothing better to do. Silent horror, like several times, we're out in the dark. Well, when we were filming that car scene, we were going back and forth.
And the police got reports that somebody was doing. It was snowy, and they got reports that somebody was doing donuts in the parking lot. So they thought it was us, and they stopped us. And I'll never forget. They're like, they were questioning us what we were doing out there. We're like, oh,
we're squad cars, mind you.
We're like we're students. We're making a student film, and they're like, oh, what's the film called? And we said silent horror, and he heard silent horror, and he goes, I've never heard of silent horror before.
And we all
right, officer,
so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was another scene. We were just shooting in kind of in front of the woods, like right next to our apartment, like a quick scene. And of course, like one of the neighbors must have called in something, and a cop pulled up, and I'm there like in a costume, like one of the monster costumes, like covered in belts and like blood, and like carrying this huge thing. And also that was the first scene, because Briggs had a gun, like a fake like pellet gun on his character, and like we saw the cop pull up, we're like, quick, throw it in the woods. And he's just like, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're just filming a thing. He's like, oh, okay. And then the cop looks at me and he's just like, are you here of your own volition? And I'm all in all this gear, and I'm just like, yes. He's like, okay. Off he went.
Are you of sound body and mind right now?
Yeah. What? I'm surprised I got the go. But with Project Snake,
so many
guns and so many terrorists. I gotta find the scene where we're at UB and
Kitty just like hands the gun off.
Yeah. So
you see the lights in the background.
Ahead at oh God. As we're shooting Project Snake. We're there at UB, and we're in the scene, and there
they are.
Uh-oh. So we'd been filming it's there's like this big dorm complex. There's a bus loop that goes under it, and then there's this little narrow passageway, which is where we shot it. And we were there for there's Weiss and Steve in their genome gear outfits with their fake guns, just goofing off, and we're there just waiting for this one bus to go away because it's making a lot of noise, and we our sound sucked, and we're just sitting there waiting. So it turns out that bus was probably calling the authorities. And we're standing there, and she's got a pellet rifle in her hand, and just police, watch her eyebrows. Just this little bit of there to there.
Kitty's a great actress.
She's amazing. And she's just somebody take this from me. And it was just okay, yep, police are here. Put all the guns down, take the masks off. Everybody act normal. Yeah, these guys. Aw. So yeah, that was a bad idea. And something I didn't realize is that Darren had actually called the UB admissions office and said hey, we want to go there and do this thing. And they're like, oh my God, no, you can't do that. And then we did it anyways. And then that happened. And just so, I mean, don't do that. Obviously, don't do that.
Or at least be smart about it. I mean, because I don't think anybody's going to sit here and say don't ever like steal a location. Yeah. Everybody does it, even up to like Hollywood productions. Everybody does it. But just if you're going to steal a location, be smart about it. Don't go in dressed like terrorists with guns.
Yeah, and something I find, at least in Buffalo, and I don't, any other like sizable city, like there is a film community there, and like you can reach out to people and like communicate out to the community. They might, somebody knows a guy who has a location that you can get for maybe like $50 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Dave, you just went through with that whole school. You shot a movie over the summer.
Yeah,
at a school. And
there's a campus near where we live that has a big film production track, and so they actually rent out the school as a location for dirt cheap to local filmmakers, and so that exists everywhere.
We did with Captain S. We I don't want to frame it this way, but when we were starting PBC and starting Captain S, a lot of times we would say, what were the mistakes we made with X Strike? Let's not make those this time.
No, that's fine. We did that at X Strike too.
Yeah. No, and then I remember when you guys brought X Strike back, you were kind of like it was like we were just like piggybacking off each other. But we almost always for Captain S paid for our locations too. On top of that, like not a lot, like we would never be able to pay more than like $50 or $100 for a location. But like that's why we shot in schools a lot. It was very easy to get Catholic elementary schools to let us film there. So it was funny because we were supposed to be high school kids, but like the schools always like had like fingerprint drawings on the walls and stuff, which gave it like this even more childish feel. But yeah, it was we almost always okayed our locations. Very rarely stole
this
them.
Location we were not okayed to be in. Like Rory and I were just kind of like walking around in like the hallways beneath UB, just kind of looking for hallways, really. And we just kept, you keep going down elevators and through doors, and we found our way into like this autoclave room that was just open, unlocked, accessible, and we were just like, I guess let's see if we can film it here. And it was so nerve-wracking every time we went there because, it's one thing to be shooting in a hallway, but this was just, nobody could ever think you possibly should be in this room. That was like way back behind a bunch of doors, unlocked, but obviously not someplace you should be. And we ended up we had to go back there so many times because we kept forgetting like shots. Like we had to go back there like 3 or 4 times, and I hated it every single time. But yeah, Resident Horror, which Dave once, I hate this scene. No, I don't want that. No, go away. What, Dave, which you so eloquently described as a surprisingly professional experience.
Yeah. Well, again, by then, I showed up on location, and you had all these very specific, great-looking locations picked out compared to what we had done before. A production schedule lined up, and while yes, there were some shots that like ran really late into the middle of the night, we're all friends and joking around and having a great time. So I didn't mind. But yeah, everything for the most part was like scheduled really well. A lot of pre-production work. That's again, as an actor, to come into an amateur film shoot and see like, oh wow, there's already costumes made. Like everything, there's all this pre-production has been put in, and I can just show up on set and do my job. It was a really great experience.
I remember that day. I just had a very small role in the actual film at that time, but Chad and I came and we decided to like do a little behind the scenes documentary, and I remember thinking like, wow, this is like the most organized and prepared that X Strike has ever been. It's great.
Well, and that's the thing, with the limited amount of time you have on a set, on a location, that's preparation.
Look at that hair.
Oh, that beautiful long luscious hair.
Trying to find the one shot with the bread in it, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it was somewhere after that, but I don't know. Maybe it'll come up. Maybe it won't.
I think it's around here. It's in this
tracksuit zombies. Well, it's when you guys are running to the house, like you're the last one to get killed before they go inside. But yeah, you weren't at that doink. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work for Resident Horror, and not everything worked out perfectly, but for the most part, it's like we had our plan where it's like, okay, well, we need to go to this location with this part of the cast, the Willard location again. We need to shoot like all of the mansion stuff with them, and that ended up being a long day. It was like 9 a.m. till 4 the next morning.
There I am.
I was like fielding a call from from your wife at like 3 a.m. being like, "Is my husband dead? Like, are you guys still doing this?" And Ross back there, who just turned 40 this weekend, by the way. I'm missing his surprise party right now. I hope he's not watching this because you got a surprise coming later tonight. Yeah, he had a very long stretch where he had no scenes, and his thing was the last thing we shot, but he was a trooper. And by the time he was kind of grumpy, but by the time we actually got to filming him, he was on at 3 a.m. Like, this was the rat scene, like
his big death scene, right?
Yeah, his big death scene.
Jeez.
Yeah, but it was, it was, we'd figured it out something at that point. It's like, okay, we got to know, like, these are the scenes we're trying to do.
Yeah. Oh, here, look how you can see us. You can actually see us.
Yes, and that was because Rory's brother Liam.
That's right.
Went to school for production, and he took care of the lighting. Like we had a MacBook that we used as a lighting monitor, and he set up the lighting for all the scenes. You clown shoes.
And Hex drew us costume renders, right?
Hex drew the costumes. They're actually on. I don't know if it's up somewhere on the internet. If you want to bug me on Facebook about it.
Hector Martinez, a fellow star of the film and talented illustrator.
Yeah, like he drew those. Like we had Maximo Lorenzo. He drew concepts of like the monsters that appear in the movie. And we put all this together. We did like a script that we were going to print out a limited edition script thing to sell to people, and it had all of this behind the scenes like footnotes on the script. It has comments from like the cast. I got a little blurb from everyone who worked on it. And sketches of like all the costumes. Like we used our artist friends.
Mahoney.
They sketched costumes out, sketched monsters for us. Hex did all like the fun little like chibi character art for us. That was amazing. But yeah, it was just like, okay, we have to have a schedule. We have to have like feeding people. That is an important part of like doing a shoot.
Yes.
Is like having food for people, just like, even if it's a short.
Oh, if you don't feed an actor, we will eat you.
Yeah, but it wasn't something we like really considered. It was like, we were all buddies, like shooting like River City Rumble, or like, there's 3 people shooting Silent Horse. So it was like, okay, we're going to shoot, and then we're going to go to the Chinese buffet, whatever. But, in these bigger shoots, and like, we had like a dozen people there. Like at the scene in the woods earlier with all the zombies, like we had 20, 30 people there, like, because a ton of fans had come up to be zombies. Like they had driven hours from Pennsylvania, which again, like, you put out for help will come to you over greater distances than you may think. But it's like, we had to have a food plan in place. So we had like sandwiches there for people. Like we had a plan for, my dad fried 2 turkeys for people to eat, People still talk about my mother's deviled eggs from that shoot weekend. We had hammers. Like there was plans to like make food and eat and keep people happy. And everybody, I think had as good at, for as long of hours as we were shooting, as much as we were doing, everyone had a pretty great time. Casey right there, he's done a lot of movie stuff too. But I do remember on that shoot, like we had this long weekend shoot. We were shooting out in the woods. We had the entire cast there, basically. Like we had to get all this stuff done with the entire cast. And I remember it being like 2 a.m. It was Monday, Labor Day. So we'd shot like all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Like we have these last 2 things we get, and Casey's just like, guys, we have to stop. We can't do this anymore. Like we have to stop. It's too late. I think we'd run out of tape, or we'd run out of battery, and like we still had a little bit of stuff to do, and we just couldn't do it. And like me and Rory just had to be like, you're right. So again, like it helps to have like other people that have been there
telling you no. Someone you trust to tell you no.
Someone you trust to tell you no. This reminds me, Ben. No, keep talking. Let me pull up this thing.
Well, I thought, I know we have limited time left, and we've got a lot of stuff we want to touch on, but I think one of the reasons why I felt Resident Horror worked so well is because you accepted help from your very talented friends.
Yeah.
And while none of us were professionals really in any of our respective fields, Hex is a really great illustrator, and his costume designs were exceptional, and we had talented friends contributing amazing music, and we had right Dale
North.
Dale North.
He did the entire soundtrack to silent horror.
Yeah. And so you I think you were very wise, and even Tim, you wrote really funny characters, and our friends are not actors, but they are funny, naturally talented people that fit those roles really well. I think there are instances where we maybe had to find non-actors to fill in some roles, and their performances are not necessarily Oscar worthy. So accept help from your talented friends.
Yeah. And that is like, it took a village to make Resident Horror. Like, everybody was contributing, like building, like at that shoot, like in the garage, people unprompted, like helping to finish Steve's monster that he didn't get done finished on time, and doing this, and like
Darren cooking a meal for the banquet scene.
Cooking a meal, just all kinds of things. Anyway, okay, so yeah, I have to read this. Ben couldn't make it to MAGFest because he came down with like some kind of horrible stomach flu, food poisoning, like on Wednesday.
That's what he looks like now, actually. In the scene.
That's what this is live from Ben's house. We lost the feed. But anyways, so back on the 9th of November, he emails me at 3:13 in the morning with a subject: I have a terrible idea. Want to film a short for MAGFest? It's 3:13 a.m. I've been up since 2 with no sign of being able to go back to sleep. I have 2 sick children in bed with me. This is the perfect time to come up with an idea for a short. Do we ever see what happens to my character in Resident Horror after I run away from the zombie horde attacking Ned? Which the next day I had to tell him, yes. There it is.
Yes, you become a zombie.
Do we want to? Things we would need: 1, a day for filming, minimalist background music from Dave, a forest, Mahoney's voice, clothes, something that looks enough like my Spars jacket that I was wearing, at least 2 changes of clothes, including dress clothes, a hot dog, mustard, a table and chairs in the woods, 1 to 2 extras, male and female, well-dressed, more mustard, and ending. Talk to me tomorrow. Why can't I go back to sleep?
Wow, what kind of fever dream was that?
Yeah, it was something with him like running and changing clothes and people handing him hot dogs. It was like just like one steady shot of him like running through the woods and all this stuff happening. But anyways,
so again, not all suggestions are good suggestions.
Yeah, we are unfortunately coming up on the end of the panel. Just if anybody has any questions for us, now would be the time. We only got a few minutes, otherwise we'll just babble. Okay. Yeah.
If you have one tip to give, given how much has changed from then to now, what would be the one tip that you would give to people who want to?
From my perspective as an actor, I'd say put out a casting notice for professional or semi-professional actors on social media. Like, as an actor, I can't say enough that we're the people that your audience sees. I know all the hard work. Like, everyone works so hard on a film, but please don't skimp on the people that you are committing to celluloid. Talent matters, and you will regret that your vision didn't come to fruition if you just hire people that are not capable of doing it.
Yeah, it's fine if you're an idea person but can't execute the idea the way that you see it in your brain, because not all writers can be actors and vice versa.
Yeah, I think getting from my perspective, I was thinking like getting that feedback, putting your script out there to get feedback from people, being ready to take some suggestions and not some other suggestions, but like getting kind of a well-rounded number of views on what you're writing. And that could be scary because, you're putting it out there, something that you made. It was nerve-wracking before showing every single movie at MAGFest, like, oh God, what if this isn't funny? I'm about to find out in the worst way, but it was always funny enough. Yeah. Yes. Are we going to make any future projects?
I better get
so.
to your house, and we are working. We have been working on a stop-motion animation project, which is a crazy thing to commit to, and we started right before the pandemic.
Is that the thing that I cut a trailer for in 2010?
Is there another one?
Yeah, no, I am hoping that we are going to get. I still have all the resources for The Crossing in my basement, like ready to go. It was just like like so many things. The pandemic just smashed our momentum. Like, we came out of that MAGFest, we had just shown the first episode. We were like ready to go.
Yeah, we still have, and several other projects that are just unedited.
Yeah,
I'd love to see come to life.
Yeah, that Mahoney has on hard drive somewhere that I should get back from so it can actually see the light of day. But yeah, no, we do plan to get things going. But it is difficult. But I think that is something that will happen. And also, just kind of in general, I want to get the movies up there on YouTube for people to see. One last question, real quick. Yeah.
How would you go about reaching out to other filmmakers who happen to also be familiar with the games that you want to?
Ooh.
Yeah, the great question. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's-
you're again on social media. Find your local filmmaking groups, find your local like monthly filmmaker meetups and like networking times. In every major city, there's someone, the local filmmakers. There's a networking meetup. You go to a bar, you meet people, or there's like a co-working space where you can just come and try to meet other like-minded individuals. Oh my God, what we would have done if we had social media back then and could have had easier access to other like-minded people that wanted to help us.
And keep in mind, there's probably a number of like-minded people here at MAGFest. They might not be from your area, but you look. There was the whole community orchestra playing out in the atrium this morning. Wild things can happen if you're just like out there talking about it. Like so many things, especially like here at MAGFest, just like gestate, because people have ideas together. But yeah, thank you for coming. I don't want to run over time. We are right up to our time. But yeah, hey, if anybody needs or wants one of our movies, I brought them. You could just run up to
lucky
me.
ducks,
They're
you.
only $5 if you want any of the movies. But I have them, so just see me after the
Didn't
panel.
you just
Thank
tell
for
them you're putting them up on YouTube?
I am, but these have extras and are in my basement, so you can get them out of there. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, name that tune at 2:45 in panels 2.